Hi, Mr. Baina here, and welcome to our first episode lesson in Science, Technology, and Society. So, I am introducing to you here the prehistoric period, and welcome to Conceptual Connection series. So, let's focus our attention within this time frame where it covers the different species of organisms, including our species, the Homo sapiens. So from 2.5 down to year 0, that will be the coverage of the prehistoric period. So that includes the Stone Age up to the Metal Age, including our species, the Homo sapiens. So let me present you first the simple concept map of the prehistoric period, and there are two ages here. One is the Stone Age, that includes the Paleolithic Age from 2.5 million years ago up to 10,000 years BC. That will be followed by the Mesolithic Age or the Middle Stone Age from 10,000 years BC up to 5,500 years BC, followed by the last of the Stone Age, which is Neolithic or the New Stone Age, interlapping from Mesolithic, which is 5,500 to 2,300 years BC. And after that, that also interlaps with the Copper Age, because sometimes Copper Age or Chalcolithic Age is also known as the last of the Stone Age, where sometimes they call it the Modern Stone Age. So however, that can already be categorized to another group, which is the Metal Age. So we'll start with the Copper Age from 5,000 BC to 4,000 years BC. Then let's progress to the Bronze Age, 3,300 to 1,200 BC. And then finally the Iron Age or the Age of Steel, and that is from 1,200 to 600 BC. So to start off, we will start with Paleolithic Age from 2.5 million years to 10,000 years BC. The Paleolithic Age is also known as the Old Stone Age. So the science during the Paleolithic Age is almost none. So basically, this is the beginning of the dawn of the human era, and then the dawn of civilization is very much thin during this time. So basically, there is almost no science at this time. However, as time progresses, by the means of experience of humans into the planet, they gather all those information, pass on to the next generation, and so science also evolves. It is this time that humans already discovered fire, so people already start to make use of fire in caves and outside of the caves to warm themselves from the very cold environment during this time, and also to maybe most probably to make use of fire for cooking of their food. The Old Stone Age or Paleolithic Age, people are already making use of animal skin to be used as shoe and animal hides as their clothing to cover themselves from the very harsh environment, and most probably a very cold environment as well. So this is how they knap stools to create the very famous stone tools that they make use during the time to remove animal skin, and to be also used for cutting of the animal tissue for making of them as a source of food. So hence it's called the Old Stone Age. So the technology that is developed by humans to create all these Stone Age tools are very primitive and very basic. However, they also made use of bones and woods to be also utilized as tools. So aside from stones, they also develop other means of technology, for example, for sewing their animal hides to be used as clothing. So they made use of bones and also some woods. So in terms of the people, in terms of the society, most of them are hunters and gatherers. That's how they survive. So they hunt for food, and they also, the women, most probably the women, gather the different vegetables from the different vegetative environment during those times. So they hunt animals for their source of protein and other supplements from the basic vegetables and fruits within the surroundings. So one of their customs during the Paleolithic age is already the burying of their dead, and most probably these people already believe in the afterlife. And because of that, they have already created this place of sacrifice. So this must be the sacrificial grounds of the ancient people of the Paleolithic age. And so they started to keep their records, such as their day-to-day life, in the paintings on the different caves that were excavated by the different scientists in the field of archaeology. And so most probably this is how we got the information on the different life of the people during the Paleolithic age. So here is a concept map to summarize the type of technology, the science, and the society during the Paleolithic age. So it is believed that around 2.5 million years ago to 10,000 years BC, that's the time frame of the Paleolithic age. In terms of technology, they already start to build fire. They are also even making use of animal hides and animal skin for their clothing and shoes. They also made use of different tools such as bones, woods, and they knapped stones in the process called flaking. So a very primitive way of making use of stone as a tool. However, in terms of science, it's almost nothing. But eventually we know that as time goes through, and because of the experience, that is a collective experience of the different people at the different time, were passed on to the generation and to the generations to come. And so science is also evolving. And in terms of society during the Paleolithic age, the means of survival of humans is actually hunting and gathering. So they also practice the burying of their dead. They also keep their records using cave paintings, and most probably they develop communication, and because of that, they most probably also believe in the afterlife. Moving on to the Mesolithic age, around 10,000 BC to 5,500 BC. So one of the advancements during the Mesolithic age is also the sophistication of the stone tools that were used during that time. And this time we have the microliths. These are small pointed blade knives, and these blade knives were used by our ancestors to a wide variety of usage compared to the original stone tools. And they also have spearheads and arrows that were developed for hunting. So they made use of hot stone for cooking, and they already start to make use of fire pits to roast meat and most probably fish. So they already revolutionized their culinary art in the use of clay to bake fish and meat using those roasting pits that was presented earlier. And so they start to migrate to live in circular wooden houses structure. So aside from staying in caves, because they have now developed more or less a much sophisticated tools. So the kind of society that the Mesolithic age has is the gatherers are still there, hunters are still there, but they already start to make use of the occupation of fishermen. So aside from caves, now they start to move on to live in camps, but still they are into nomadic life, meaning to say they just move from one place to another where the source of food and water is available or abundant. So here are some archaeological findings that dates back to the time of the Mesolithic age. So in other words, that people are already started to make use of improvised stone technology for the processing of their food. And at this time also they were able to name and identify the different plants, fungi, berries, and nuts, and even shellfish that are edible to human consumption. So let's take a look closer to the conceptual summary of the Mesolithic Age. Again, when we speak of Mesolithic Age, this is another name for the Middle Stone Age. So middle meaning to say it ranges from the 10,000 years BC after the end of the Paleolithic Age down to 5,500 BC. And so in terms of technology, they are now making use of tools like arrows, spearheads, and microliths. So microliths are more sophisticated stone tools because they are pointed, sharp knives. And because of that, this must be probably the reason why they were able to develop, camps. And so even though they are living in clans, but now they were able to live outside of the caves. And this time they were able to also master the art of cooking. They use hot stones for cooking, and even the use of the roasting of meat in fire pits, and baking of fish and meat using clay. And of course they have the circular structure houses with wooden posts. So that's what I said, that they started to create camps so that they don't need anymore to look for caves, where if caves is not, or caves are not available in areas where there's abundance of food, there's enough water supply, so they can just build camps. But still they are in the nomadic life, meaning to say if the food is already scarce in a particular place, they will have to move on from one place to another. And in terms of the society, again, people are gatherers, they are hunters like the old Stone Age, but this time there is now another occupation, which is fishermen. And in terms of science, now they start to improve the use of stone tool. So they definitely they are now acquiring all those knowledge, and they were able to identify, of course, and even name edible plants, fungi, berries, nuts, and shellfish. And they are now start to building houses. So that's the summary for the Mesolithic Age. And so here we are now into the Neolithic Age, or the New Stone Age, from 5,500 BC to 2,500 years BC, and this is now the dawn of agriculture. So in the history of man, once they are now able to have the agricultural knowledge, the science of agriculture, they will now be able to, most of them are already beginning to start to create permanent houses where they don't anymore move from one place to another. And because of that, this can also trigger to the population increase. And here are some of the cultural evolution in the recorded history. We have mostly are coming from India, and we have the Pengtoshan, Karnataka region, Piligang, Tamil Nadu, and Nanzhuangto. So these are the different cultural that evolved during the time of the Neolithic Age, or the New Stone Age era. So once they are now able to cultivate and start to have a permanent source of food aside from hunting and gathering, the society was now organized with permanent dwelling places. So we call this now a home, or the society. So the common houses during the time of the Neolithic Age are usually the ash mound houses. So this is a kind of technology where they make use of the earth to create all those houses, along with some wooden structure. Because of the development of agriculture and the science of planting, they are also developing tools that will suit to this kind of job. So they are now able to develop herding and farming tools. Because of agriculture and cultivation, they were able to store all their harvest in a particular type of storing house. So we call it the granaries. So these granaries are already developed during the time of the Neolithic Age. So different ornaments at homes, including the different types of food container and vessels, are already developed, so pottery is also booming and evolving at this time. So basically, the characteristic of the New Stone Age is characterized by cultivation and agriculture, so raising of animals. So the people are now creating society because they were able to produce food constantly all throughout the year, and so they also created permanent dwelling places, and probably the population also increases at this time. So if we look at the different timelines, so from 2 million years down to 10,000 years BC up to the present time, so foraging is still being practiced by the people. Scavenging is also being practiced. Hunting is also being practiced. Herding is already practiced after 100,000 years. And then transient agriculture, meaning the planting temporarily of vegetation in a particular place, is also practiced until eventually that after 10,000 years BC down to the present is already the dawn of the permanent agricultural places or agricultural areas. And so during this time, there are now more sophisticated stone tools that were being used, including the polishing of stones. So here are the different garden tools using stones during the Neolithic Stone Age. So the summary concept map of Neolithic Age or the New Stone Age is from 5500 to 2500 BC. We'll look at the science of the Neolithic Age. They already are engaged with pottery making. In terms of stone, they are able to polish stones for the use of agriculture. In terms of agriculture, they include cultivation of grains and even the domestication of animals. And another science is the science of storing of food, such as grains. They are now stored in granaries, and because they have granaries, in their technology they were able to create infrastructure and most probably new occupations such as carpenters during this time. So infrastructure such as granaries and permanent houses were already built during the Neolithic Age. And another technology is the development of new tools for farming and herding. And the kind of society that they have during the Neolithic Age are the society of the more or less an organized society, because they have now the permanent dwelling place where they live in ash mounds, and people are indulged into agriculture that leads to population growth, and also that leads to cultural evolution and organized society. So the first metal in the age of metal is copper. So this is also called the Copper Age, from 5000 to 4000 BC. Another name for Copper Age is also called as the Chalcolithic Age. Chalco meaning copper and lithic meaning stone. So basically they call Copper Age as the last Stone Age, but now we understand that copper is metal, so therefore copper belongs to the age of metal. So according to historical facts, that most probably Copper Age originated in the northern Mesopotamia. So this is how smelting of copper is done in the ancient Mesopotamia. Smelting is another term for melting and solidifying for our copper to be made into useful tools. So copper is most probably the first metal tool that is used by man and more durable than stone. So copper is having an advantage because we can shape copper and you can even sharpen copper. So this has lifted the society of man into a civilization or advanced civilization, and one of that is the ancient Mesopotamia. So because of the usability and the moldability of copper. So when we talk about the houses during the age of the copper, they are now constructed of mud bricks. So this time they are making use of bricks. And then an example to this is the Tililiat Gasul, which is a remnant today of the Copper Age society. Aside from the sophistication of the type of houses during the Copper Age, people are now making use of mural painting, such as the use of different tone, such as black and red or brown. So we call this the polychrome murals. This is also found in the Tel Eliat Gasol society. In the Halafian culture, around 5,500 years BC in northern Syria, this is the kind of pottery that the people during the Copper Age are now using. So you can see that they are making now the use of color red over the black color. So most probably they are now advancing their pottery making. So also during the Copper Age, burial ceremony is also done more or less formally. So burial jars are already present. So this is also very similar to the one in the Philippines. We make use also of the Manonggol burial jars. And another one is that they also have the rock tombs developed, and somehow they have found dead bodies in the ancient houses of this society. So somehow they bury their dead within their compound or inside their house. To summarize the Copper Age, that is around 5,000 to 4,000 BC, the technology that is present there now is that copper is the first metal used by man, and this brought advantages: more durable than stone, copper can be shaped with a sharper edge, and copper can be molded. So most probably this has created a more powerful tool to create a bigger society and a civilization. And in terms of houses, they are now constructed in mud bricks. So bricks are already available at this time. For example, the one in the society of the Tel Eliat Gasul. And they also have their painted pottery. An example there is the Halafian culture, 5,500 BC. That's the turn of the beginning of the Copper Age that is found in northern Syria. And also in terms of society, people are starting to bury their dead in burial jars, rock tombs, and some are found within their houses. So most probably the Mesopotamian civilization are the ones who originated the use of copper, and aside from that, they make use of polychrome murals that are present in some of the excavation site in the Tel Eliat Gasul. And in terms of science, they are now advanced into the science of smelting copper and solidifying for tools making. So later on, this can progress into the using of alloy for copper to create bronze, but we'll have that one later in the next slide. And Copper Age is also known as the Chalcolithic Age, chalco meaning copper and lithic is stone. So basically, they believe that Copper Age or the Chalcolithic Age is the last age of the Stone Age. But now we realize that copper is not stone but rather metal. So this is the first metal age, which is the Copper Age. So we will now proceed to the second to the last of the metal age, which is the Bronze Age. This is from 3,300 years BC to 1,200 BC. Now we know that bronze is coming from copper. So when we add alloy to copper, such as tin, we can create bronze. So obviously, since it is called Bronze Age, the bronze is actually the metal that is widely used during this time, because bronze is even harder than copper and it is even more durable than copper. In terms of science, melting metal at high point temperature is already created or already studied, and they have also employed about the high melting point temperature, and they were able to combine copper with its alloy metal like tin or arsenic that can form into bronze. And because of the sophistication of the different bronze tools that are developed, there is also the rise of more powerful state this time. So the civilization and the kingdom and the states are already starting to rise. So we'll first look at the civilization that evolved during the Bronze Age, which is the Mycenaean civilization or the Greek civilization. Mycenaean meaning these are also known as the Greek civilization. The three powerful states here are Athens, Sparta, and Thebes. So we also have the Sumerian civilization. It is believed that the Sumerian civilization are the first civilization to develop bronze. So their technology is also in the use of their levees. So this is their irrigation system that can bring water into the environment where there is no water, so they can already cultivate in areas where there is no water. And irrigation system is widely being used even up to this time, our present time. So they also created pyramids such as the temple of pyramid that is called the ziggurats. So ziggurats are the pyramid temples that are created by the Sumerians, and they also celebrated art and literature. So these are the first civilization who appreciates literary works and arts and culture. Also this time, China, the Shang and Zhou dynasty already created chariots and weapons for fighting, and at the same time they also created the different bronze shape of vessels. So that's the Chinese civilization during the time of the bronze. So those are the different civilizations during the time of the Bronze Age. Another popular civilization during the time of the Bronze Age is the Babylonian civilization. They're actually the earliest civilization who made use of legal codes or written legal codes, and these are the written legal codes of the Hammurabi. So this is what creates the standardization of the law of the Babylonian Empire. So the first practical writing system was also developed during the time of the Bronze Age, and we have the cuneiform script of the Mesopotamia. These are actually tablet cuneiform script that is written on clay with the use of wood and clay. So they were able to create all these different symbols that has an equivalent message. It can be decoded by an expert during the Mesopotamian civilization. But on the other hand, the Egyptian civilization also developed their hieroglyphs. These are the different figures that has symbolizes the different names. So that's the first practical writing systems that was created during the Bronze civilization. So we are now into the summary of the Bronze Age. So from 3300 to 1200 BC. In terms of science, the people during the Bronze Age are now knowledgeable of melting metal in a very high temperature, and because of that they were able to fuse in metals such as tin and arsenic with copper to create bronze. And in terms of society, the first civilization to have developed bronze is the Sumerian civilization. So because of this, because of the complexity of the tools, people are now becoming more advanced, and they have already created states and kingdoms, and these are the Mycenaean civilization, or better known as the Greek civilization, with most popular states including the Athens, Sparta, mostly militarized state, and Thebes. And in terms of the Sumerians, as mentioned, they were the first people to develop bronze. They also developed the use of levees, which are the equivalent to the irrigation system that we have today, and it's still being adapted up to this time. They were able to cultivate food and agriculture in places where water is not available. So they also invented the cuneiform. It's a writing system during the time of the Sumerian civilization, and they also have created the pyramids or pyramid temples, and they call this the ziggurats. And they also celebrated art and literature. So this is a very high in culture civilization, the Sumerians. Now, looking at the Chinese civilization, they also developed chariots, weapons, and vessels, even casting of bronze into the different shapes, including those vessels that I mentioned. So even the chariots, the weapons are also made in bronze. And another civilization that is so powerful is called the Babylonian civilization, and because of this, they have also the earliest record of their legal codes. They call it the Code of the Hammurabi, and most probably that's what makes the civilization of Babylonia a very systematic civilization. And in terms of technology, during the Bronze Age, actually, the first practical writing system is developed. So it was mentioned already, the cuneiform in Mesopotamia, and another one is the hieroglyphs of Egypt. And they are the widely used metal during this time is obviously bronze. They have the advantage of the making use of bronze compared to copper, because bronze is even harder than copper and it is more durable than copper. So that's the conceptual summary for the Bronze Age. And finally, we will now proceed to the last of the Metal Ages, which is the Iron Age, from 1200 to 600 BC. By the way, iron is not that strong. It is a brittle type of material, but when iron is added with an amount of carbon, they can create steel that is even stronger than bronze. So basically, I can say that the Iron Age is also the age of steel. So iron is now mixed with carbon to make steel, and steel is even sharper and harder than the bronze. It is said that the Hittites were the first civilization to make use of steel. Because of the development of steel, people are now into the development also of weapons, and so they claim territories, and other people are also defending themselves. And because of that, there are some territories that has expanded, and some also has forgotten their original city and has brought catastrophe to the original city-state. And not to mention here is the Greek Dark Ages around 1200 BC. This is also brought by famine, and then there's a Greek abandonment of their cities, and so because they abandoned their cities, they now move on into pastoral grazing areas in the mountains, and where they start to learn to cultivate and produce olive oil and other relevant products. However, after several hundreds of years later, the Greek were able to bring back its glory. So we call this coming back of the Greek civilization as the classical period of the Greeks, which is ranging from 500 to 336 BC. So during this time, this is now the end of the Greek Dark Ages, and there are now what we call the cultural achievements, such as the coming of the famous philosopher Socrates, the cultural achievement of the Greek, and even they have now what we call the government system called democratia. This is made by the people for the people, and this is democracy. This is what we are in the Philippines are also making use in our government system. We pattern our government system with the democratic way of government. So the Persian Empire is one of the largest empires in the world. They are warriors. They ride in horses called the cavaliers. So because of that, they were able to completely focus on the making use of steel into their armory system. So they wrap their horses with steel covers. So these cavaliers were the reason why they were so successful in defending their territory and expanding their territories. So this is the Persian Empire. And so the last civilization that I will be talking about in here during the Iron Age or the Age of Steel is the Celtic society in Europe. That's from 1200 BC. So their houses were made from mud and wood, and they also build their walls and ditches to protect themselves from the invading states. So we are now into the last conceptual summary of our topic, which is the Iron Age from 1200 to 600 BC. And so the kind of society is, we will first have to go to the Hittites. The Hittites were the first civilization to make use of steel. But what happened to the Greek or the Mycenaean society is that they entered into what we call the Greek Dark Ages from 1200 until to the next 300 or so years. This is brought by famine and also of war, and this led to the creation of pastoral groups that they now raising their livestock outside of the city states, and therefore they are abandoning their cities such as the Thebes, the Athens, and Sparta. And anyway, after that, around 500 to 336 BC was the end of the Greek Dark Ages. This is now what we call the classical period. So the events during the classical period is the cultural achievement, including philosophers and their government system called democratia. And we also have another society, the Persian Empire. This is characterized as the first civilization to develop armored cavalry, and then their horses were completely covered with steel. So this is the reason why they always win in every time they go into war. So one of the largest empire in the world is actually the Persian. So another one is the Celtic society. The Celtic society in Europe, they are famous for their houses made from mud and wood, and they have their walls and ditches to prevent the foreign invaders. And in terms of technology, tools were now made from steel, much stronger than copper and stronger than bronze. And the science during this time is they were able to mix iron with carbon to create steel. And so that ends the conceptual summary for the how society was evolving from the old Stone Age down to the present time. So the significant events here includes the dawn of agriculture, cultivation, which leads into the settlement of permanent houses and creating of the civilization and the structure of their society. Whereas during the time of the Metal Ages, this is also where people are becoming more powerful. They were able to develop tools, especially in warfare, which brought to the expansion of the strongest civilization empire, and also has brought to the demise of the weaker empire. So basically, this is the beginning of the context of science, technology, and society intertwined as one.